stress and the planning worry that had to come with a military move for her and her family. So just a short vignette on that success, so thank you for that. I'd also like to highlight the driver's license process that was improved, and we worked with Director Schwado on that over the last couple of years. That was a big deal. So as that came into fruition last year, we've had literally hundreds of sailors that are participating in the most academically rigorous, challenging program in the military that have for years had struggled to be able to get a driver's license, so that when they transition from the academic schoolhouse to operating the nuclear reactors down the road where they had to commute, they really struggled for that, because there is about 40% of our military members that move here from around the country. They don't all have driver's licenses. So if you grew up in a rural area like me, or maybe many people in here, you couldn't imagine not having a driver's license, but that's not the case for many of our recruits. So this was a big deal. So hundreds of folks have used that just since last November. That's enabled them to finish that last leg of their nuclear training curriculum and be able to get out to the fleet successfully. I think it's contributed to their academic success and improved graduation rates and mission accomplishment. So thanks for that. Also, thanks for the education discussion superintendent. So we work a lot with the schools, with our school liaison officers. We have multiple families that are using that scholarship option right now, and we work closely with our charter schools as well, so that we meet those percentages. And those are the top questions whenever people are moving in. They're reaching out to our school liaisons, to their command representatives. Where should I live? Where's the child care? Where do I put my kids in school? What's my commute going to look like? That's all the things we're talking about and we're getting after, so thank you. Shifting to a couple challenges and some focuses that we're talking about. The first issue I wanted to bring up is the roadway infrastructure on Red Bank Road. Red Bank Road is a state-managed road that's on federal property that goes through the Naval Weapons Station in Goose Creek, South Carolina. We've watched that area get challenged over the last few years with the economic and community growth around Hanahan and Goose Creek, the industry growth around Bushy Park and on the Cooper River, and with return to work orders, Naval Information Warfare Command, and the nuclear training facilities, we knew that something needed to be done. Through the SCDVA and the South Carolina grant proposal team, we were able to get a traffic study funded that just completed this last month of September. And what that did was it highlighted that this Red Bank Road, which is a strategic connector, which is vital not just for base access, but for residential traffic, for industry traffic, and for freight to be able to move through that area. The study showed that it would be in very challenging levels in the out years. So I was able to work directly with Secretary Powell. We've had a great conversation. We're working with the BDC COG. We had Senator Grooms down at Joint Base Charleston, worked with the Charleston Metro Chamber of Commerce, Berkeley County Supervisor Cribb, and others. I think we have some good courses of action that we're evaluating and some good opportunities to see where those funding streams might come from that we can get after that problem. So thanks for the help on that. But still an ongoing challenge that we need to find those solutions for that can balance that traffic relief, the security of our base, because it does go through federal property, and the growth of the community, which we understand. Next topic I wanted to address was energy security and energy resiliency. So Joint Base Charleston, we rely on commercial power like most folks do. So we, on the weapons station side, we rely on Dominion. We have a feeder that comes in for Santee Cooper to come into our air base. And so what that does is that for extended power outages, that degrades our mission. We see some mission degradation. Now we have critical infrastructure that allows us to generate some mission and allows us to, keep the air conditioning on and keep the coolers on, so we're not losing food, losing medicine, losing buildings. But we recognize that there's an impact to the base here. And again, this is another unique thing at Joint Base Charleston, our shared airfield responsibilities with Boeing and with Charleston International Airport, where Joint Base Charleston provides the emergency response and the crash services for that joint use airfield. This is an important thing. So I think as we look at what the move of the administration, our War Secretary's direction to generate energy resiliency, energy security, opportunities to look at power generation, to look at critical infrastructure upgrades. Those are things that we're getting after and we're working on. In fact, we're working with the Office of Local Defense Community Cooperation, which is a federal program, and they've assigned a program manager for that. And we're working with Charleston County to see if we can get after a grant proposal, perhaps for a microgrid solution study where we can look at power generation on the airfield for that Obviously, that's in the out years to come. And we're exploring other options, like what does privatization look like, and is that something that we need to be focused on? In the near term, we're working on sustainment options with what we do have to upgrade the gear that we have, we have funding streams in place that we just got for the right electrical right-of-way clearances so that we can keep what we have working, and I think that's working good. So I think what I'd ask for here is the importance of recognizing, again, back to our folks live in the community, we rely on the community. Where does the needs of the community's energy intersects that of the military installation? Because I think there's opportunities there where we can work together to supply the mission generation we need and can also support the community. And there's examples of that happening in other areas of the country as well.
Thank you.
Last topic I'd like to bring up is on unmanned aircraft systems and their security, specifically Joint Base Charleston. Like everybody in the room, is faces a growing threat from unauthorized drone operations. And again, shared airfield uses, but also infrastructure constraints, a shared waterway that we have with the Coast Guard where they provide security. We provide security against our waterways where our nuclear reactors are on the river for training purposes. We've implemented counter UAS measures. We've used the technology that we have. We've gained a lot of ground on there, including we have revised MOAs with local law enforcement agencies at the city and the county level, and that's working really well. However, we lose jurisdiction once a drone leaves our space. So if we have an incursion and a drone leaves, we leave jurisdiction. And so what we've worked with, we've had Senator Adams as well with the chamber that we worked on to see what those solutions look like. I talked with Chief Keel recently on the efforts that SLED is working on so that we can figure out a way, and we're continuing to put input through Joint Base Charleston to see how we can help input and influence state legislature so we have that type of accountability. So when we have a security infraction or incursion or issues, we have some teeth so that we can get after and mitigate those risks. So I know that was a lot, took the extra time, it was allotted to me. You gave it to me, Secretary, so thank you. I'll end it with that and just say again, thank you for the opportunity.
Hey, thank you. We appreciate that. There were some really impactful issues and a couple to unpack. Perhaps I'll offer the cabinet some comments. So I don't, Secretary Powell, if you want to make any comments on Red Bank Road to start with it. I got to be honest, I want to give credit where credit is due. We may have provided some of the funding for that process, but I got to be honest, that started with a phone call from him to me on this issue. Saying when he heard it, you guys briefed us a couple years ago. So I think there may be something we can do. So the Red Bank Road State, I think, start off with Justin Powell. So I'll give you the opportunity to comment.
Thank you, Secretary. And I think to Captain Cap's point, he kind of summarized it well. Really came out of the discussion a few years ago at this meeting about challenges that Joint Base Charleston was having with Red Bank Road. So the grant we got from the military enhancement grant we got through the Department of Veteran Affairs really did help us fast track the study. So we have a couple alternatives out there that we're looking at with the Joint Base right now as the next step. So either we'll work it through our normal regional planning process over there, but there are some opportunities through the Pentagon and federal highways that we might be able to look at as well. So continue to work closely with them and deal with this issue. It's not our normal type of project. There's a very large sewer line. We normally don't have to consider blast radius within the right-of-way. So those are things that we're going to be looking at and continue to partner with the Joint Base on.
Yeah, thanks for that. The second topic is probably worth some discussion is this issue of resilient power. And I've commented many times in a variety of audiences, you know, for many, many years, the United States has been kind of immune to the issues of resilient power. We've had power outages and sort of things, but we've never had to worry through the lens of a true national security threat we do now in the world of great power competition, where these kind of things as an art of warfare, the idea of bringing down a power grid, the impacts it has on critical infrastructure, particularly on our power projection platforms, is a key issue. So this one we've talked a lot about, and it's a challenging issue. We appreciate the work. I don't know if there's any comments from others in the audience, either from the military base or from the Military Affairs Advisory Council, Commerce, or anyone else, or resilience in terms of this issue of power resiliency issues. Yes, sir.
Well,
yes.
We have been talking a lot about this for many years. There's a whole host of works in progress across the state to do a lot of study on this. When I talked about applied research earlier, this is one of the critical places I think we can do it. We have had some examples. Parris Island, for example, is able to store about 2 weeks worth of power in large-scale Tesla batteries that they can then generate enough power to run the depot when challenges occur. And that's a small example. I think that this is a place where we really have an opportunity to throw the weight of the state and the power of what we have that exists in the state, private-public partnerships, higher education institutions, and others, to put a bunch of great minds together and do a lot of tremendous work here. Joint Base Charleston is the strategic power and sustainment platform for the United States across the Atlantic seaboard, singularly and always. Just like Midnight Hammer and what the 20th Fighter Wing and Shaw did, we all rely, the Joint Force and across the world relies on Joint Base Charleston to do this. We can't afford to lose your capabilities. So I think this is a worthy one for us to continue to tackle.
Secretary Lightsey, did you have some comments, sir?
Yeah, just I'll follow up on that. So South Carolina has a designated tech hub, SC Nexus, which is in grid resiliency and advanced power, advanced energy. Microgrid is an area that we are really looking to explore with that tech hub. It also, because it's a designated tech hub, it has preference in terms of grant applications, federal grant applications. And so I think, you know, that's a great opportunity for us to work together to explore the possibility of a joint grant application to deploy a microgrid at Joint Base Charleston. And I think we could continue to work on energy resiliency with all of our military bases and our tech hub.
Excellent. Thank you. Yes, sir. Go ahead, Governor.
Also, one other thing we're working on is the finishing the work on the 2 unfinished nuclear reactors up at VC Summer. And we've met with the Secretary of Interior and Secretary of Energy. They are interested, and if we can, and Santee Cooper now is looking for somebody to finish building those. And there are a lot of investors around the world that want to invest in nuclear power. So I think that we're ahead of any place else with the potential of having 2 brand new big nuclear reactors come online. But people all over the country realize that if we run out of power, we run out of security. So it's on the top of the minds of a lot of people, I assure you.
Any other comments on power resilience issues or grid resilience? That continues. We will continue to have that conversation and do whatever we can. We'll certainly pull in your expertise from the Joint Base. It's obviously good to have a nuclear submariner kind of involved in the conversation as well. So thank you for the issue. Obviously, that's one I think it illustrates very clearly the linkage between the federal national security issues, the state's role in national security, of course, obviously local issues. So that's one to continue to work on. Finally, you raised an important issue on unmanned aerial systems and drones. And obviously, we've seen lots of that worldwide right now in terms of that threat. And I think we'd be naive to believe that threat could not exist here. And so it's a critical issue for us, and I know it is for each of our military installations. So, Chief, did you want to make any comments? I know you all have been working closely on this issue with the Joint Base and others.
I'll just say briefly, it is certainly a problem nationwide. We are concerned about it. Not only, obviously, we work with our military bases where we've had potential drone incursions, but also the concern that we have locally with special events, our football games, our big special events that we have, and we have ways of detecting these drones, but we have no way to mitigate them. And I know it has been a concern in D.C., and I understand that there's some bipartisan support for doing something about it. We keep hearing that, but it doesn't seem to be moving. And I don't know what we can do here in state with regards to legislation, but I think it's something that we can certainly look at. Again, it is the guidelines end up because of federal laws. You know, they treat a drone like a airliner basically, and can't do anything with it. So at least we can't from state side. But they are talking about drone legislation and has been being discussed for some time. I know all of our state agencies, my counterparts, are all very concerned about it. Again, because we have these reports of drones on a regular basis, and especially with regards to special events that we have here in South Carolina.
Hey, Chief, thank you for that. Any other comments or thoughts on this issue of drone unmanned aerial systems? I know each of the commanders, each of you deal with this issue in various ways and have different issues in terms of threat awareness, threat mitigation issues. So we've heard this before, and jurisdictionally, I think continues to be the challenge. Once it leaves the fence line, the wire, it's no longer your ability to do much about at that point. So we've got to work together on that process. I think it would be helpful periodically, if I think for all of us, we probably do a better job of helping us, you letting us become aware of those issues when they occur, because I know we may not be seen collectively at all. Chief, you might, but I'm not sure across the interagency, if you will, at the state level, we're seeing the level of those issues that you're beginning to see. I mean, we're seeing drones fly around from real estate agents. We're seeing them from power companies, everybody else. So a lot of people flying these things, not always sure what they're being used for. So, and Amazon coming to you sometime soon to deliver your new socks or something. Okay, well, thank you for that. A lot of media issues coming out of the Joint Base as we'd expect. We appreciate that. And with that continuing kind of in the Joint Base area, let me turn to our Coast Guard partners here, who are also co-residents down there in the Charleston area.
Good morning, Governor, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Secretary, members of the General Assembly and Cabinet, and our military leaders. I'm Captain Eric Jones, and I have with me today my Command Master Chief, Matt Valente. We bring you greetings from Charleston, South Carolina, an official Coast Guard community. And before I start, I just want to say, this is Master Chief Valente's last year. He's retiring at the beginning of next year. He's been here 3+ years after 30+ years of military service. So I really wanted to thank him for all the great work he's been doing for us. Appreciate it. So again, thank you for the opportunity today. And the three topics we're going to talk about today is one, the new base Charleston campus and our growth. We're going to talk a little bit about derelict vessels and legislation and the importance of weather buoys and live data for our port. Just 20+ short months ago, we marked the milestone where we held the groundbreaking ceremony that formally recognized the start of our construction of the new base campus located at the former Naval Base Complex. This will be the future center of gravity for our Coast Guard operations and future home port for up to 10 major cutters, to include national security cutters and our offshore patrol cutters. These are cutters that are locally stationed but making a global impact. If you've been watching the news, we have 4 national security cutters stationed in Charleston, and just less than a month ago, Coast Guard cutter Hamilton returned. I think she offloaded over $500 million worth of drugs. That return on investment is amazing. I think those ships cost about $600 million. So one deployment, 3+ months, they're bringing it back home. So those guys are doing amazing work for us down there. And enhancing strategic capability, the intent is to transform Base Charleston into a major Coast Guard sea power projection platform. Previously, the Coast Guard had appropriated about $346 million for this effort, with several key projects currently under construction. The reconciliation bill has allocated an additional $360 million. This funding will be critical to ensuring we meet our operational requirements. Due to this growth, Coast Guard personnel footprint is expected to double from about 1,200 to 2,500 personnel in the next 5 years. And we kind of talked about this already, but this growth necessitates the proactive focus on quality of life factors, specifically continuing to monitor the challenges with affordable housing, childcare, transportation, and education for our members and their families. Early identification and mitigation of these issues are essential to derelict vessels. This is one we'd like to congratulate you and the state newly enacted law pertaining to derelict vessels. Derelict vessels have been a challenge across the country for decades, with no single entity having a silver bullet jurisdictionally from a funding perspective to address the problem. Derelict vessels present pollution risks, threaten sensitive habitats, and can endanger boating, public, and commercial maritime traffic. The state's new law, which was recently leveraged to remove Hazar from the Bohicket Creek, is one of the most forward-leaning in the country and fills a critical gap. With existing federal jurisdiction coupled with state newly enacted legislation, we look forward to working with you to continue to protect our shared waterways. And the final topic is related to offshore weather buoys and live weather data. Currently, there are 7 buoys along the coast of South Carolina that provide live, real-time maritime weather. This data, which is fed directly to the National Hurricane Center, is crucial for the port resiliency and provides Charleston-based ports a competitive advantage for detailed hurricane forecasting. Recently, the federal funding that makes these buoys possible was uncertain. While a short-term funding was restored following a local intervention, long-term funding remains uncertain. For the Coast Guard captain of the port, who is responsible for port closures related to weather, real-time weather data is critical. Closing too early costs South Carolina millions, and closing too late puts our mariners and infrastructure at risk. I respectfully ask for your support, that of the Office of Resiliency, to ensure that South Carolina maintains this capability. to provide real-time weather data which directly link to economic viability of the state's maritime transportation system. Governor, thank you for today's opportunity, and we thank you for supporting our team and our entire Coast Guard community, our employees, families, and veterans across the entire state of South Carolina. Thank you.
Thank you, Captain Jones. One question, if you please. You mentioned that derelict vessel. I don't know if everybody knows about that. Could you shed some details of that? How long it's been there, how big it was, and all of that?
Oh, we have a captain report in the audience today who would have majority of the details, but I think that vessel was 130 feet long, and it's been there for a very, very long time. And I know the residents down in that area was, of great concern. But getting this law enacted was enabled to get out of here. But we do have the captain of the port in the audience if we want great details on it.
Say someone's in the audience?
Yes, sir. Captain Lansing is here.
Yes, sir. Come forward, please. And I know DNR was instrumental in that as well. There she is there. Okay.
Yes, sir.
How long had that boat been there?
That boat was there for a couple years, Governor, and thanks to South Carolina DNR and the great work with our folks, they were able to pull it out of Bohecka Creek. That took a little bit of work over the years. That boat sat there, was falling apart. There was a lot of spills potential. The oils and some of those materials we took off with the Federal Pollution Fund took some of that risk away. But that boat was still there, and like Captain Jones mentioned, there was threats to mariners, and it's, to be honest, was quite an eyesore for the people who like looking across the marsh in that area. So we worked very closely with DNR to pull that out, and that law that was enacted is a great testament to your state, and will do great things for the ability to remove those vessels that in the past did not have that mechanism to do that. So I'd share the mic with.
Hi, Shannon Bobert's here. I'm Chief of Staff with the Department of Natural Resources. We also want to thank the Coast Guard for their assistance. That boat was 120 feet long. It had been there a few years. It had been a focus of something that we wanted to remove, thanks to the General Assembly for not only the legislation, but the fund. That unfortunately used about a third of the fund. It was $235,000 to remove just that boat. But we have also worked with Wounded Warriors, an organization to assist with moving a lot of abandoned boats throughout the coast, and we appreciate all of their help. And that's a key focus of Director Mulliken to continue to remove those boats.
Wasn't that a military vessel owned by a private individual who just left it there?
That's correct, sir. It had been auctioned, I think, in a salvage situation, and it was a torpedo vessel that he was able to purchase.
Everybody ought to have at least one torpedo. All right. Okay.
Thank you.
Any more questions? All right, thank you. Thank you very much.
Shannon, thank you. Hey, very much appreciate the collective work down the Charleston area for what you all do and highlighting the issues. We got some things to work away with. Let me move a little closer to home here. We'll head over to Fort Jackson. General Hood, sir. To you, sir.
Hey, thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
To our governor, our speaker, superintendent, all the other distinguished civil and military leaders. It is a privilege to be here, join with you this morning. It is also very refreshing because oftentimes when I'm out and about and encounter people, I think there's a little bit of taking for granted freedom. But I would dare say if we polled each person individually, what's nice to understand is you don't see it that way. You understand that freedom is not free. It comes with a sacrifice. It comes with a commitment. And so I'm Darrell Hood, the commander at Fort Jackson, commanding general, senior commander, deputy commanding general of our Center of Initial Military Training. So if you first hear that, that's a lot of titles. So I would just say for everything that goes well and doesn't go well, just blame it on me. That keeps it really, really simple. I'm joined this morning by my post-command sergeant major, William Schoff, Schoaf, and I just demonstrated how easy it is whenever you see someone's last name. Is it Schoff? Is it Schoaf? So we kind of laugh because he tells people just think of loaf, like a loaf of bread, and then just instead of loaf, Schoaf. So hopefully I did him some justice. But hey, he's one of you. What do I mean by that? Grew up in North Augusta, has family in Aiken, and I was teasing him. I said, hey man, how long have your family been in Aiken? He says, well, let me see. My father's 81, so that probably is a pretty good idea of how long we've been in the state of South Carolina. But like me, growing up in Georgia, I hate to say it, my Bulldogs aren't doing what they need to do, and they took one. I'm still going through therapy from my loss last week. You know, it's like, Kirby, come on, man, just kick the field goal. I mean, you hold these guys to 0 points in the second half, and then you forget how to win. But that's not the focus of today. I would like to say, though, as you've heard from peers of mine looking at the other military, whether it was the Air Force at Shaw, or whether we heard from the Coast Guard, or even the Navy, they presented remarks focusing on the operational domain. Now, each of us as services, we kind of have our own culture, vernacular, and we use a lot of acronyms. But in essence, what they've talked to you about is how they operate, how they conduct their mission. And I know, Mr. Governor, you talked about mission, and mission is something that we do. It has a clear task and purpose. It is very defined of our existence and what we do. So while they talk to you from an operational perspective, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to talk to you from an institutional perspective. Once again, if I asked you individually, what does Fort Jackson do? What are we known for? The majority of you will most likely say boot camp basic training. And that is really, from a percentage standpoint, mostly by numbers, what happens at Fort Jackson. But I also tell you that at Fort Jackson, it's not only about basic combat training, but we also train our chaplains at the Institute of Religious Leadership. We train our adjutant general, personnel and human resources, our finance, obviously, how to do spreadsheets and make sure everything balances, although you wouldn't necessarily know that today with some of the challenges that are going on. But we also have the Drill Sergeant Academy, and they are responsible for training all drill sergeants across the Army, and we generally see roughly about 2,500 per year. We also have our Leader Training Brigade, and they focus on leaders, whether it's at the company command level, the battalion command, squadron, or the brigade and group, where they really allow leaders to reflect on what's necessary to continue to perform at that level. So simply put, the mission at Fort Jackson is really about training, educating, inspiring, and developing soldiers. Another way of saying that, regardless of what spectrum you may be, is we make American soldiers. That's at the initial level, that's at the more mature, higher level. And so I would also let you know that the vision, as the general there, because we have a lot of hands make light work. And whether it's our civilians, our military that's in uniform, we expect everyone to be extraordinary professionals, and in that uniform, be the exemplary warfighter. And 4 simple tasks: lead, care for people, train, and maintain resources so that we can achieve success. So we're doing that at Fort Jackson, but we're not doing it alone. And we're right here in your backyard. 40 years of service, I just got to tell you, you're doing it right. I used to be biased from the outside looking in. Didn't necessarily see Columbia and Fort Jackson for what it brings to the table. But today, I'm biased because I'm in your backyard. I walk outside the gate, and I'm right there in Columbia. I'm inside the gate, I'm still in Columbia. My zip code is 29206, and I'm right here in your backyard. So it gives great pleasure to serve here at Fort Jackson. I want to let you know the acronym RED. I said I was going to talk a little bit about acronyms. R-E-D. You're probably wondering, what the heck does that mean when it comes to General Hood? The R is for readiness, the E is for excellence, and the D is for destination. We help the Army generate readiness. We also believe that it's about excellence in order to be competent, to be qualified, and prepared to go help our Army fight and win our nation's wars. You don't do that unless you understand how to achieve and obtain excellence. And then finally, we want and believe that Fort Jackson is a destination of choice. Well, what do you mean by that? Well, we provide over 46,000 retirees right here in your home. My former deputy commanding officer and former post command sergeant major retired right here in your home. And Mark Hutton is working right now along with Dr. Kim Moore, and now joined her team, again, an example of your team. So when we talk 46,000 retirees, that's quite the contribution. That's over 2.3, I believe, Mr. Secretary. Susan McPherson is crunching some numbers, but we provide over $2.3 billion when it comes to economic impact. I mean, that's probably about 34%. If I was a wizard and could work a calculator, I'm sure I'd be pretty close to that number. We also bring in over 250,000 individuals that come here to see their soldier, their son or daughter, nephew, you name it, to see them graduate and spend some time with them on Family Day. 250,000. So we've heard the term relationships. They do matter. And so the gratitude from myself and my command sergeant majors, thank you so much for letting us be part of your extended family. Some of you all may know that. Some of you all may not know that. Go look at your family tree and you probably see that we're related at some point. Mr. Governor, there's 3 points just in terms of a brief highlight that I'm going to touch on today. It has to do a little bit with military construction, really looking at facilities as the first one. The second is the Future Soldier Preparatory Course, or FSPC, and many of you understand that, but I will take just a moment to go into that. And then the Transformation and Training Command, T2COM, and what that actually means to Fort Jackson and really Columbia and South Carolina. So the first, when we look at facilities, the Child Development Center, Basic Combat Training, Complex 5, and then the Drill Sergeant Barracks. So I'll start with the CDC Child Development Center. And these are on Fort Jackson, inside the gate proper. And I'm very appreciative to hear about child care because we have a number of soldiers, military that live out and around the community across Columbia, the Midlands, and so forth. And they are definitely tied into what you all have talked about earlier. So thank you for that. Our CDC on Fort Jackson was built in 1987. So we're talking 38 years. And with that, there's normal operating and maintenance that's required. And quite honestly, the facility gets old. Today, we can house about 290. As we go forward, the intent is to expand that hopefully by 50 and get the number closer to 340, 338. But the challenge has been heating, air, also electrical challenges, the GFI, the ground failure interrupters, and plumbing isn't where it needs to be. And so we, again, see a cost for maintenance. That being said, though, we were very fortunate. The Army, a few months ago, recognized Fort Jackson's Child Development Center, one of 2 that they approved funding for. And so that cost is roughly around $50 million. And we understand, too, that the Corps of Engineers, the Army's Corps of Engineers, had to have their design, the 35%, completed by the end of 2025. So they are putting the final touches on that. And what I can't tell you, because I think many that understand contracting and work, is if it will stay on the prescribed time. I'm just glad to know that Fort Jackson is one of 2, and we have something to look forward to as we talk facilities and improvement. And then second, Basic Combat Training Complex 5. Again, we're talking about a facility that was built in the 1970s. So once again, challenges. Specifically in this case, though, not so much only looking at what it costs to maintain and renovate, but that facility allows us to house approximately 900 trainees. So let me take just a second and explain why that's significant. As a former brigade commander and others today, when we talk filling numbers of trainees, they do it at the company level. The companies are roughly around 180, 200 is a baseline number. They typically can surge up to 260 civilians that they're going to transform into trainees and soldiers. Well, each of those battalions filling at the company level, there's usually 5 per battalion, and therefore when they feel at the company, they have a little bit more flexibility. We don't have the same flexibility here at Fort Jackson. Why? Because we fill at the battalion level. So 5 companies per battalion, that puts us anywhere from 900 to 1,200 during the summer surge. As you can imagine, young men and women, high school age, college age, that say, hey, we want to go in during the summer months, and our numbers really increase. So with the current disposition of 900, we're limited. By allowing us to proceed forward as we look at the Basic Combat Training Complex 5, we're talking additional capacity of classrooms, the company workspaces where they train, and that allows us to get to that 1,200. It comes with a cost, though, estimated at $273 million. So it is on our facility investment plan within our hierarchy of our chain of command, but we do know that there are competing demands across all installations. And so if Eisenhower, Fort Gordon, if my buddy and friend John Ryan was here today, he would share perhaps what's going on there. So we're competing across the board. And then the third one that I mentioned is the Drill Sergeant Academy. So today when we train drill sergeant candidates, that's roughly 107 max seat capacity. About 50% of that resides in the current barracks, and then the remainder is in our local lodge. So that's privatized lodging. Again, that's driving up costs. That's expensive. That's about $5 million annually that goes into privatized lodging. Well, by building the new complex, the cost is $151 million, but now it allows us to house all the drill sergeant candidates and then one focal point. Over the long run, long term, then it will be worth the return on investment. So those are the 3 that I wanted to mention when it comes to military construction and facilities. The second point that I'll briefly touch on is FSPC, the Future Soldier Preparatory Course. So many of you can probably look back to August of 2022 as the Army was doing an internal assessment and said, hey, our goal for recruiting, we need to really meet that. And many services were being challenged with meeting their recruitment goal. What the Army recognized is there was a population that was really close to meeting the standards, the requirement that you could actually enter basic combat training. And what the Future Soldier Preparatory Course has done is over that period of time, going back to August of 2022, and we have close to 40,000. We're about 38,000 numbers that have been through that program, either on the academic side or the physical side. And now they're in our ranks of being able to actually conduct basic training. And so throughout the fiscal year 2025, we've seen close to 17,000 that graduated this past year. So that helped the Army reach its goal for 2025 of 61,000. As we look at fiscal year 26, which we're now 2 days into it, the Army is going to continue to put out its goals for recruiting, and it's right around 57,000. And don't quote that exact number because I didn't look it up before I came in, but I know we're really close in terms of each year trying to look at 55, 60 between that number, 55,000 to 60,000, do everything that we can to help achieve what's necessary for readiness. The Future Soldier Prep course was a concept, and then it was a pilot. But now it has become a program of record. And so the 10 companies that execute that today at Fort Jackson will continue to see that occur. It is now part of the Army's forecast and budget. And so it is again, something that I'm very proud to be part of, to see how the headquarters Department of Army has made this a priority, again, to help generate readiness moving forward. My third point is the T2COM, Transformation and Training Command. Why, you may ask or be wondering. Army's Futures Command out of Austin, Texas, was responsible for the design and looking at the future force, the total Army analysis. I'll just make it easy. 10 years, looking out 10 years. Really, it's 12 whenever you think about the future year defense plan, because you don't count the current year and the next 2, but then you lean forward. So that's really about 12 years. What does our adversary look like? You think China, you think Russia, you think North Korea, you think Syria. I mean, those that are in open sources, you can read about it, you can Google search it, and you'll pretty much know. Or if you keep one eye and one ear on the news and the other eye in the ear right here in your backyard, your focus is at the local level. But the Army said, hey, as we look at the Army's Futures Command and then Training and Doctrine Command, which was Newport News, Virginia, Fort Eustis, Virginia, they really focus on the training. And the Army said, hey, we're not really efficient right now. We can do this a better way. So they decided to merge those 2 headquarters under one 4-star. And what it allows us to really do is to deliver a more lethal capability, because you're consolidating, in some instances, resources, and it is focusing on generation, training, and modernization. So if you think hierarchy and you're looking at an organizational chart, Mr. Governor, that would be the 4-star. Headquarters, again, is in Texas. Underneath that 4-star would be 3 separate independent 3-star commands. The Futures Concept Command, the Combined Arms Center Commander, and then the Recruiting Commander. 3. Futures Concept Command, again, is focusing on designing what the future Army needs. The CAC, Combined Arms Center Commander, focusing on training specifically the Army University and all of the subordinate schools, Command General Staff College, Senior Service College, looking at how we train at our combat training centers, the National Training Center out in Fort Irwin, California, the Joint Readiness Training Center down at Fort Polk, Louisiana, and then the centers of excellence for each of these services that represent their branch, their skill set. Infantry, Armor, Fort Benning, Georgia. Air Defense and Artillery, Field Artillery, Fort Sill, Oklahoma. The maneuver support piece at Fort Leonard Wood would be engineers, military police, and the chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear school. So those are examples of centers of excellence. They fall under the Combined Arms Center. There's also the doctrine that they focus on, as well as other elements of doctrine, organization, training, leader development, material, facilities, and so forth that we really reference as .mil-PF. And then finally, recruiting. The headquarters at Fort Knox, and I think everyone knows where Fort Knox is. If you haven't been in Kentucky in a while, it's not so much gold there. It's gold measured in a different way. And that's with our Cadet Command, training our Reserve Officer Training Course cadets. The Recruiting Command, again, looking at individuals that raise their right hand and decide they want to serve. We also will see Fort Jackson as part of the Center of Initial Military Training, and that organization structure would now be aligned under Recruiting Command. So if nothing else, if you're wondering why it's being consolidated, that's to improve efficiency, approve how the generating force, the future force needs to be designed, and how we need to educate. That's what we believe is going to occur. And so the Training and Doctrine Command went through an inactivation ceremony last week. I was there to participate. This week we're seeing Army's Futures Command also inactivate. And throughout the fiscal year 2026, it will be in a initial operating status, so that by the September this time next year, we will close out 26 and become fully operational for fiscal year 27. Again, very little impact on Fort Jackson. It has more to do with my Command Sergeant Major and myself as we look up and out and engage senior leaders. So that is a good news, I think, for Columbia, for the state of South Carolina, and our overall contributions that we provide. So hopefully you found my update useful. If you have questions, please, Mr. Superintendent, if you want to take some now, happy to do it, or when we finally get a break, taking it offline. So thank you for the opportunity to be part of this illustrious team. And I like to say team because, Mr. Governor, it is, as you pointed out earlier, it's about collaboration, communication, And then last but not least, cooperating. So thank you for your time.
Thanks, sir.
Excellent, General Hood, thank you. Any questions or comments for General Hood? I would highlight, I think it's important that, you mentioned $51 million in the Child Care Development Center. That is in the Army's funding plan, which is an important piece. And, obviously the Army Corps of Engineers will let those contracts. I would imagine some of that money will find its way into South Carolina businesses. That's always good. So every time there's capital improvements on our military installations, that generally benefits the state through our commercial private sector that does the work. So thanks for running through that process. One more multi-installation command we've got is our own South Carolina National Guard. I'll turn it over to the Adjutant General, General Stillwell. To you, sir.
Good morning, Governor, Mr. Speaker, distinguished leaders of the state and nation. I am Rob Stillwell, and I'm the Adjutant General of the state of South Carolina. I have here with me Colonel Trip Bowes, who is the Fighter Wing Commander at McIntyre and is a very critical member of our team in the South Carolina National Guard. It's our privilege to be here to represent the men and women of the South Carolina National Guard and the South Carolina Military Department today. We are in a very healthy position right now. I'd like to take just a few short minutes to tell you the status of our organization as it stands right now. On the Army side, we have 9,393 soldiers. That represents 100.1% of assigned strength, authorized strength. On the Air Force side, we have 1,345 airmen, which represents 100.07% of authorized strength. Our Army recruiters last year met 118% of their recruiting goal. And on the Air Force side, they met an incredible 185% of their recruiting goals last year. Our State Guard has 288 State Guardsmen enrolled currently, and they are continuing to enroll every day into the State Guard and into the state programs. We have 471 civilian employees in the South Carolina Military Department. Altogether, that's a team of 11,597. We have an annual budget of $580 million, which is a direct economic impact to the state of South Carolina. Now, I'm an English major from the Citadel, so there's no way I could ever calculate indirect economic impact. I'll leave that to Mr. Lightsey and his team. We have 79 facilities across the state, situated in 40 of 46 of our counties here in South Carolina. What that really represents is that we as an organization are fully integrated into all of the various communities that are represented here by my colleagues at the active duty installations. And all of the concerns that they have, and you're to the benefit of the soldiers, airmen, and State Guardsmen in the National Guard as well, and we would join them in those concerns and in those requests. We do recognize that they are spot on in each and every particular. We, like all the organizations in the room, Governor, Mr. Speaker, are busy. Currently on orders, as you know, we have 39 soldiers on ICE duty, helping the Department of Homeland Security in the state. We also have, just returning from Washington, D.C., at the height, 264 soldiers and 1 airman who assisted in D.C. with Operation Safe and Beautiful. They returned at the end of September. However, 42 volunteers do remain and will stay there through the end of October and then return to South Carolina. We currently have deployed on our southern border both MPs and a transportation company. Just returning from Poland and Eastern Europe, we had MPs who spent a year there and performed incredibly well, with kudos from the 4-star commander, the Supreme Allied Commander of European Forces, General Donahue. We have a busy deployment cycle for the next several years. Engineers will be going to the Middle East, infantry to the Middle East. Our aviation will be going to Kosovo. Our additional infantry battalion will be deploying to North Africa, and our air defense to DC and in other places really around the world. And of course, our fighter wing remains constantly on duty 24/7 to defend the airspace on the East Coast of the United States. So as we ramp up into FY '27, which we'll be training for vigorously in '26, we should see a surge of approximately 1,200 soldiers and airmen that will be deployed abroad or CONUS defending our liberties around the world. The good news today to you and your staff, Governor, and to the legislature is that I don't have any requests and I don't have any asks. I would say that we are in constant dialogue with your staff, with the cabinet, with members of the legislature. I just reiterate that South Carolina clearly is a phone call state, as evidenced by the fact that I talked to Speaker Smith on the phone yesterday morning early. I talked to Senator Young this morning before this meeting. And of course, my good friend, Representative Gillum, Sergeant Major Gillum, makes an effort to call me just every so once in a while to make sure that I know what I'm doing wrong, and I appreciate that. But on behalf of the soldiers and the airmen and the state guardsmen and the South Carolina Military Department, I just want to say we appreciate all the support that we've received from you, Governor, from your cabinet, from your administration, from the legislature, and from all the people in the state of South Carolina. It does not go unnoticed. We appreciate it. And to all of my colleagues at all of the installations, please know that we're part of your team as well. Whatever you need from me, please let me know. I'd be happy to give you my phone number. I think I probably have, but inasmuch as this is being broadcast statewide, I'm not going to publish it publicly. So thank you, and I look forward to any questions that you may have, sir.
Thank you.
Excellent. Any questions or comments for our Adjutant General and his team? Before we move on, I do want to make one comment. I'm going to, General Hood talked about recruitment, the Army's piece. I'm going to offer all of us here at the table are in the business of recruiting your transition service members and your retirees to stay in South Carolina. And in fact, we're trying to extend that regionally to recruit those out North Carolina, Georgia, Florida, you name the state. We want them to come here. So I did want to get off. One of the things our department is working very closely with the Department of Employment and Workforce here is about recruitment and placing the skills that transitioning service members provide the workforce. And as I say to many groups, you know, transitioning service members are three things in the workforce. One, they have inherent discipline because of their military service. Second, they know how to work in a team. And third, they've shown the demonstrated ability to be trained or coached on new skills and talents. And frankly, every industry wants that, and it's a great piece. So I did want to offer Director Floyd an opportunity to comment on what DO has been doing, because we work very closely with them and others here at the table through the Coordinating Council on Workforce Development, of which he's stood up a veterans subcommittee of that, which aims at, frankly, retaining your talent when they decide to take off the uniform. And I'll extend that includes each of you, by the way. So, Director Floyd.
Thank you, Secretary. Thank you all for your service. South Carolina is an exceptional state with military service at the heart of it, as the governor noted. But your service continues after you've put your uniform up. And in South Carolina, we want you to stay in South Carolina and continue working, you and your families. So one of the programs that we have developed in conjunction with Secretary McCaffrey and others is that the STAYS, S-T-A-Y-S program. We want you to stay and apply your skills. That STAYS program does basic things. Number one, it focuses on the separating service member, veterans, and their spouses. And for some of you all, particularly those who have moved so much, your resumes would look different than other resumes from a private sector. And so we are participating with STAYS participants and STAYS employers that we've recruited to guarantee that STAY participant, including either a veteran or their spouse, up to 5 job interviews with the STAYS employers. Those are guaranteed. That's not a guaranteed hire, but it's a guaranteed open door. So through that program and many others, working with our workforce partners, we want your service members, when their time to serve is over, to continue serving in South Carolina in the private sector. Thank you all for your service.
Director Floyd, thank you. And I'll just reiterate, that's something we'll continue to try to get on your installations. And we appreciate the support you all provide us to talk to your transition assistance programs. That's an important piece of message to your transition service members as well. Let me, before I make some closing comments, turn over to the governor and the speaker for their comments. Any other thoughts from the room here who didn't have an opportunity to say something or think they want to contribute to the comments, or questions or issues we need to raise?
I'd love to build just briefly on the governor's opening comments about the opportunity we have with the celebration of the America 250. I'm so thankful to General Grimsley for his incredible leadership of our SC 250 Commission. But to follow up on William Jasper and our Palmetto flag that I passed around to the group earlier, at the Department of Education, we have launched what is called the Palmetto Civics Project, and you can find that at palmettocivicsproject.com. We just announced the first of its kind in the nation partnership with the American Battlefield Trust here, because as the governor referenced, South Carolina had more revolutionary battles fought on our soil than any other state. And I truly believe that when we think about recruiting and the future of our military readiness, it starts with our students understanding the past and also seeing their place in America's founding story and future. And so we are so excited for the opportunity to work with the commission going forward to ensure that every student in the state of South Carolina understands the opportunity that we have as free Americans to lead the world with honor, with truth, with dignity, and with bravery. And so if you or your command staff would like to partner with the Department of Education as we are expanding this message to our students across the state, we certainly would be open to those conversations. So I just wanted to raise that before we adjourn today. Thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent. Any other comments? Yep, Kevin.
Governor, I want to seek a mea culpa. I threw your Speaker of the House under the bus last night with his mom and dad, but it was with a purpose.
I was wondering who that was.
It was me. I want to thank Captain Kepi for bringing up the discussion we had on licenses, and only because you threw a lot of credit my way. It was this venue that allowed us to do what we did. The Speaker took it personally, threw it at the military caucus, and I've never seen legislation flow through that fast in my short 15 years on the cabinet. I will tell you that when you seated at the table come up with an issue, the pressure comes to the entire cabinet and to the legislature to perform. So I want to thank the Speaker, the military caucus, and the governor for the venue that allows us to continue to drive the train when supporting our servicemen and women, families, and veterans. That's all I've got.
Thank you, Kevin, appreciate it. Well, let me make one final comment before I turn over to the governor and the speaker here as we close up. A couple warning orders for the commander. When we do finish here, we're going to assemble back in that corner here for a quick photograph by the black curtain. We've kind of shifted the location, so if you'd all kind of move that direction when we finish here. Governor, I think you recognize this, and for those that are around the table that have served, we've moved a lot. We've served a lot of different places. But I got to be honest, South Carolina, in my experience, is one of only several states in the nation that has the level of the joint force represented like you see at this table, and I include our Marine Corps and Navy colleagues who are not able to make it today. That's remarkable, and it demonstrates the strategic impact and importance this state has to national security, as evidenced by the investment by the department in this joint force here. So we appreciate that. We've thrown out the number a couple of times that the most recently quoted number is $34.3 billion of annual economic impact. That number I would just want to highlight is several years old. We're in the process right now of updating that through an additional study. We have every anticipation that's going to go up because of the investments that occurred. The Coast Guard raised some points. That alone is going to drive that number up. And unlike other states, South Carolina has largely grown in mission growth, not protracted. So that will likely increase. And we'll hopefully by this time next year, we'll have that number updated to be able to brief that for updated use. And the final thing I just say is, and I know I speak for the rest of the cabinet here, is we want to support you and your families in any way we can. And I know each of us would say, if you've got a question or an issue, please raise it to us. I will get off for our agency here as a liaison, as an inject point for you or your staffs over anything. So please feel free to give us a call as we move through that process. And with that, my final comment, I want to thank my own staff, Sandy Claypool and her team, Jason Fowler and Derek Campbell, who are around here someplace, and the work they did in the back over here in putting both the event last night together and this. So we appreciate the work they did here in allowing this whole team together. And again, finally, you commanders, thank you for your flexibility. Again, as we know, it is unusual times, and you've made the time to come here today to outline your issues and collaborate with all of us. We do appreciate that. With that, Mr. Speaker, I'll defer to you first, sir, if you have any questions, comments.
No questions, but I appreciate the discussion and the collaboration today. As Director Schrader said, is one thing that we do here is we take notes and we hear what we can do and how we can assist you. And I promise you, we wrote down some things this afternoon or this morning that we are going to look into and help. And certainly we understand infrastructure. And I tell you, I recall the same problem we had at Shaw Air Force Base, and this was many moons ago when RCENT was locating in Shaw Air Force Base. They just needed a stoplight and a turn lane at the new gate for the Army to go into, and it was an act of Congress to be able to get that accomplished. And so how far we have come to see and hear what's happening with DOT. I had to get Commerce to get the money to pay for that light, and back then, and now DOT is your willing partner. So this shows you how far we've come through the process. I would be remiss if I didn't mention Shaw Air Force Base, Colonel Walker. I'm going to take your thunder, but on behalf of you, I'm going to invite everyone here to come and see the air show that we have in 2026. It's going to be March 28th through 29th. The Thunderbirds will be on proud display at Shaw again. And for anyone who has not been there, you're missing a treat, and we'd love to host you and come. I think it's free, so you can obviously come on there, but those of us in Sumter can make it a little bit more enjoyable for you if you want to come and visit with us. And the one thing you saw on there is you had the Thunderbird Netflix documentary, which put a lot of focus on the Thunderbirds and how and what a fantastic and highly trained organization that they are, unit that they are. And the one thing that we're proud of, I went and visited with Colonel Walker a few months ago. In the midst of planning Midnight Hammer, they did not turn me away. They brought me in, and 2 or 3 days later, Midnight Hammer occurred. So it was very fortuitous for me to be out there. But we have one of the Lieutenant Colonel at Shaw Air Force Base was just named the commander. Is that Trueblood?
Yes, sir.
Ray's Trueblood was named the commander of the Thunderbird Squadron, and he will be leading them as they come to Shaw Air Force Base. So not only do we plan missions in little old Sumter, South Carolina, but we also have our military members going to be commanders and great leaders in our Air Force and in our military. And Mr. Creech, my former mayor, will tell you the number of generals that we have had that come through Shaw Air Force Base has been tremendous, but more importantly, they come back and live in Sumter, South Carolina, and that's what I really appreciate. So thank you all for your service. Thank you for what you do for this nation and this great state, and I look forward to continuing working with you through this next legislative session.
Thank you, Speaker. Mr. Governor, sir.
Well, thank you. I want to thank everyone for your service, military and civilian. And I think those looking in on this session today realize once again how unique this place is. But with our unique nature come unique responsibilities, most of which are very heavily understood by those wearing the uniforms, both civilian and military. So we've got a lot of work to do, but we have the thing that business leaders around the world that are investing hundreds and billions of dollars in this state, the thing that we have that is exceptional, most exceptional, are our people. And that's on display here today, those who are here temporarily, as well as those who are permanent. And we hope more and more of those that wear the uniform, any uniform, will make this permanent, because that's where our strength comes from. So I want to thank everybody, and I hope that the young people watching this or that get an opportunity to understand what happens through these courses that we're speaking of, through these challenges, realize the great pride that they should have in this state, the history, the traditions, as well as the actions, the things we do, and the things we stand for. So I thank all of you for being here today, and looking forward to more exchanges like this as often as possible. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Governor. Again, thank you, commanders and senior list leaders, for making the time to come out here. If I could dismiss everybody, if we could, commanders, we could meet right back in that back corner here by that black curtain. We certainly appreciate it.